thought of selling makes you cringe, you're not alone, and it's costing you more than you realize. This clip is from my conversation with Michelle Terpstra, the founder of Revenue Rascals, who's helped over 1,000 businesses turn awkward, avoidant sales conversations into confident, repeatable revenue systems. She's a former Fortune 500 sales leader who now teaches entrepreneurs how to sell ethically and actually enjoy it.
I'm not responding to that, right? So I'm going with my regular plan, which is we're closing on Monday. So what did I do? I went to Starbucks. I grabbed his favorite drink like I always do for these meetings. And I marched right into his office. I said hello to the receptionist. She knew me. She didn't know that email got sent Sunday afternoon. And I walked right into his office and I sat down with the coffee and I said, what did Dave tell you? And I looked him straight in the eyes and he was like deep breath. He's like, oh my God, right? I was like, listen, if there is a compelling reason, price, product, service, anything, preference, I will walk out of here.
Yeah.
But if this is you just afraid of change, I'm not going to let you do that because X, Y, Z, why you need this. And he goes, man, you're really good. And he's like, where's the contract? And I slid it over. He signed it and I left.
Nice.
And so that's a great example of full circle of not reacting, responding, choosing your words, being direct, and being okay with what the answer is.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of being direct with people. People are terrified of what the reaction or what people are going to say. And I guess I have zero fear of that. I'm like, you can say no. You can say go pound sand. Like you can tell me my, hair color's ugly. It doesn't really matter.
But I like that because, in that moment, like worst case scenario already happened.
Yeah.
You don't have anything to be afraid of. So might as well, if we can have a conversation and see if we can sort this out. Sounds like it was the better choice for the customer anyway.
It was. It was so obvious. There was no compelling reason not to switch.
Wow. That's a gutsy move. Yeah. I respect it. It worked out.
Fun. Yeah.
How would you have handled that how would you have handled that in a remote situation?
Yeah. So, I think that makes it sticky, right? Because now you have to get them to actually pick up the phone or take a meeting or do whatever it is. So I think you can have, unless you can get them, I would have to think of a creative way to get on the phone to have that same conversation. So I would probably use a tactic where you force a no that actually means a yes. So I would probably do something like, hey, this has been 3 months. Are you opposed to just jumping on a 10-minute call so I can understand why this was your choice? Yeah. And typically, people want to say no. So they say no, but that means
easier,
yes.
Right? Yeah.
Right. And then I would try to wedge myself in there. My Italian hands and the mic right there. I'm just hitting it lots.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
But yeah, that's probably what I would try. But to your point, super fair that makes it challenging.
I was just curious. Are you a Chris Voss fan?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've actually shared a stage with him.
Oh, really?
Which is super cool.
Yeah. Tell me about it. Was that amazing?
Yeah, it was. I couldn't believe it when I got hired for that speaking engagement. And then I looked at it and I was like, in the keynote is Chris Voss. Like, I'm opening for Chris Voss. I was like, this is so cool, right?
Yeah.
So it was really, really gratifying, and he was awesome. And we didn't chat, we were not best friends or anything.
Sure.
Maybe he wouldn't even remember me, and that's okay.
I'm sure he will.
But it was a milestone for me to hit that.
To be in that same room or in this on the same agenda.
Yeah.
Were you also speaking about negotiations, or what were you speaking about?
I can't remember my topic at that time. I think it was building sales teams. I think that was what that one was about. Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, obviously your story about the no, that reminded me of him immediately.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a situation where you were talking about the radical candor? Have you ever had a situation where you've jumped to that too early, where the person wasn't ready, where you thought there was trust there and it wasn't? And
fortunately, no.
Oh, nice.
But I have seen other people do it when it was not appropriate. So you could cut that room with a knife on the tension.
Oh, man.
Yes.
So you're there. And then what's your approach in that? Are you kind of are you prone to just to try to jump in and try to ease that tension and solve it?
It depends on the relationship and the topic. So one thing you have to be careful of when you act as a fractional CRO or your senior leadership, and it's the laws of power is never outshine the leader.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to understand who's hosting the meeting, who's in charge of the agenda. If it's me, then yeah, I'm going to step in. But if the CEO called it, you better give him a chance first before you start running your mouth, or you're going to create the same problem for yourself. So you really have to know how to work a room.
I think there's something to that. That's a skill, though. I mean, being able to understand and read a room.
Oh, it's huge. Yeah. Huge. And Yeah. And I could talk about that a bit too.
If you want to, please. Okay. So the last thing you were saying a second ago was, we were talking about reading and understanding a room. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I did a really creative thing, when I was trying to get clients, when I sold commercial title insurance, and the creative thing I did was I was having a really hard time getting meetings with people because everyone had their established relationships and they were golfing buddies or they went to private schools together. And that's never been my sales strategy.
Was this the company that said, we're going to give you basically a country club membership?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I tried, but
just not your jam.
It just all felt so inauthentic.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like I always am great at selling because I deliver value. Like I say, hey, this is the gap. You need to fill the gap. Here we go. And I felt like with that, there was no value to be provided. It was a commodity. And if the only value is time with me and doing expensive things, it didn't land for me.
Sure.
So I'm like, okay, well, how can I spin this? Right. And I realized a lot of the decision makers I wanted at that time were all trying to be on panels or like get speaking gigs. And there's these big land guys in Orange County and they all wanted to be on stage and like yada, yada, yada. And then I realized when I would go to these events that none of them were very good on stage. And I could tell they had stage fright. I could tell they didn't know how to properly put together a talk and all of these things. And I said, I could solve that problem. And then we would build this relationship, right? So I created a Toastmasters Club and it was private invite only. It was not open to everyone. And I hand selected about 20 people that I thought would help me get deals in the industry. And I brought them in to teach them how to speak and how to work a room, how to identify. So it was a combination of the Toastmasters curriculum with my background from my degree. And it was super fun. And yes, it worked. But that was my first attempt at teaching how do you read a room, how do you work a room. And it was super fun. There's a few things. Your position at the table is incredibly important, very important.
Not your literal position.
Your literal position.
Okay, tell.
So first of all, there's two different roles when you're in a room. You're either the facilitator or you're the attendee. Okay. In corporate America or any big boardrooms, whatever you want to call it, it matters where you're at. Right. So first of all, with the exception of here, because you're the host, so you're on that side, I would have taken that side. The reason why is my back is never to a door because you want to be at most buildings, like we'll have like glass windows and stuff like that. You want to see if anyone's coming or going. You want to see the movement. You want to see the distraction. So anywho.
Okay. I like that. That's a good point.
Never your back to a door. And then also safety call. You just should never have your back to a door. Okay. But that has nothing to do with negotiation. Anywho, so that's one thing. The other thing is who you decide to sit next to when you walk into a room. So for example, let's just take its senior leadership and I'm the CRO. We have the CEO, we have a CMO, we have COO, we got all these people. So I always sit next to the person who I know is not going to be my number one advocate. I never sit next to my advocate because it's kind of like a groupie thing. Like there's like, oh, they're groupies. Like you're not going to have an opportunity to like battle it. Right. So the closer proximity to the person who's going to try to take you down, the better in a room. And so that's really, really important. So that's one tip. If you're the facilitator, the person in the back of the room, the back of the table, the quiet person is actually the person who's going to make the decision. So you better play to them. Do not ignore them because they're quiet. So there's all of these dynamics. And then you'll also see the distracted people in the back who then get on their phone or the person in the front who can't focus. And your job is like trying to get everybody to come together and not be like running around like wild cats. Right. And so playing that game is incredibly important. The other thing is never slouch and sit back. Your presence is really important. Shoulders back, hands on the table, eye contact, leaning in. All of those nonverbal signal she knows what she's doing. So this is really, really important. So your presence is almost more important than what comes out of your mouth. So those are just some highlights.
That's really good.
Yes.
That's really good. And the thing that I liked about what you just described is that you can do all of those things nonverbally. There was nothing that you just described about, let's go around the table and do an icebreaker and an introduction and all that. And maybe there's a place for those. It wasn't required. It was just by paying attention, being present, and maybe a little prep work beforehand.
Yes, some investigation. You're prepared when you show up.
This was a short clip from the 4Fs podcast where I sit down with founders, veterans, and executives. World-class experts that you won't hear on every other show to talk about leadership, entrepreneurship, and personal reinvention. For the full conversation and more context, tap the link in the description or search 4F's Podcast on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. And if you're enjoying these shorter episodes, make sure to follow along so you don't miss tomorrow's clip.
Welcome to the 4Fs, 4Fs with Jeff.